Hey, honey,
Yes, Barry?
let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Fascina el viento, este ritmo de palmas, sin mi naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. I'm your host, Barry Kessler, and I'm just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination. Hey, maybe it's even yours, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That music you're listening to is performed by Alberto Perez. Now, Alberto is the owner of the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants. Those are the Lapa Lapa, Puerto Vallarta's oldest restaurant on the famous Los Muertos beach, and the El Dorado Restaurant and Beach Club right next door. So you can enjoy that fantastic view of the Los Muertos Pier, all lit up at night in beautiful colors, or during the day in its grand splendor for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, seated with your toes in the sand right at the water's edge. It's so romantic. It's so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. This week, I'm going to introduce you to my good friend, Polly. Polly is from a small town in Arkansas, and she's going to give us some tips on moving to paradise. She also has the greatest Puerto Vallarta story that you all need to hear. But before I get to Polly, let's see what's happening this week in Puerto Vallarta, the 22nd of June, 2021. Well, rain is in the news. It is finally arrived in Puerto Vallarta. And there was a tropical depression that flowed through, and Angela came up with our weather lady, Angela, also has some measurements for us. The tropical storm's name was Dolores, and it came and went over the weekend. So far, according to Angela, for the month of June, we have approximately 6.37 inches of rain. And to year in Puerto Vallarta, that brings the total to 8.58 inches. Now, compare that with last year. There was just 2.35 inches of rain in June by this time, but they had also accumulated 11.2 inches of rain for the year. So we've had quite a bit of rain in Puerto Vallarta for June so far, but the drought continues. At least for now, until all of the rivers and the aquifers are all recharged and refilled. And I want to thank Angela. Angela is up in the Emiliano Zapata neighborhood of Puerto Vallarta. That's where she's taking her measurements. And thanks for the report. I have an article here from the Vallarta Bay Times, and they say here that Jalisco Salud unanimously approves the new protocols and increased capacities for people that are, businesses and so forth. So the Board of Health unanimously approved adjustments and modifications to sanitary protocols, allowing an increase in the capacity and the flow of people in shops, cultural spaces, sports, places of worship, places of recreation, and places of social celebrations. Preventative measures will be kept in force, such as the mandatory use of face masks, keeping a healthy distance, frequent hand washing, application of antibacterial gel, and continuing vaccinations. These changes, said Governor Enrique Alfaro Ramirez, are feasible due to the low rates of coronavirus infections, currently registering only 83 confirmed cases on average per day, compared to more than 800 that were registered in June of 2020. Hospitalizations have also greatly decreased, down to 8.3% of bed occupancy, and positivity with only 2.9%. These numbers have kept Jalisco on a green light in recent weeks, reducing the spread of the pandemic in the state. The adjustments in the state strategy against COVID-19 established that cultural spaces like cinemas, theaters, forums, museums, galleries, cultural centers, recreational and cultural activities, workshops, and academies may increase their operating capacity from 50% up to 75%. Religious activities, religious centers may increase their operating capacity from 50% to 75% of their capacity, except for massive religious celebrations that will be subject to approval by the Board of Health. Sports spaces, soccer fields, water parks, gyms, sports clubs, physical activity academies, and sports facilities will be able to increase their operating capacity from 50% to 75%. Educational spaces are also spoken about here. Educational activities go from a period of suspension of face-to-face classes to a stage of academic accompaniment and face-to-face counseling in school campuses for the current year 2020 to 2021. Progress will continue to be made in the process of preparing face-to-face classes for the next school year, including enacting rigorous sanitary protocols and monitoring of the health status of students. Nurseries may now operate without age restriction. Let's see here. Space of coexistence is also addressed here. Urban, forest, parks, and public spaces will be available to increase their operating capacity from 50% to 75%. The holding of events in general may go from a capacity of 300 to 600 people, while the tourist or passenger train or bus may operate at 65% of its capacity. Events and exhibitions. Social events in closed spaces go from a flow of 200 to 300 people. Social events in open spaces go from 300 people in density of one person for every 7 meters or so squared, it says here, to 600 people. Exhibition and convention centers should not have a capacity greater than 500 people every 3 hours, and a maximum of 2,000 visitors per day will be allowed in an area of no less than 4,000 square meters. In spaces greater than 10,000 square meters, the capacity of up to 3,000 people simultaneously may occur, and up to 6,000 visitors per day. Commercial and service establishments may go from 50 to 75% capacity. Self-service department and retail stores go from 50 to 75% capacity. Restaurants, cafes, food stalls go from 50 to 75% capacity. Hotels and motels go from 66 to 80% of their operating capacity. Bars and clubs go from 33% to 40% of their operating capacity. Casinos go from 40 to 60% of their operating capacity. This is all science, everybody. Just, hold on to your hats. The General Strategic Coordinator of Economic Growth and Development, Alejandro Guzman Larralde, announced that in the decree it was also approved to extend the service in bars, restaurants, and meeting rooms for 1 hour. We have to have resilience for education and health. Today we all know how the virus is spread, and we can take all the action to prevent that. Another important factor is that all treatment and medical care continue to advance, and we must continue with both the economy and social responsibility. And I have a link to that article from Vallarta Bay Times, which was lifted from the news release from the Gobierno del Estado de Jalisco. It's in the show notes, everybody. Let's see here. There is a disturbing development. It looks like Mexico wants more than just a driver's license for you to get a cell phone and a SIM card. This actually presents major privacy violations under the guise of what we might consider, we want to protect you. You know about that, right? This is from Mexico News Daily. It says, Senate approves cell phone users registry that will collect biometric data. Yes, that's right. One opponent says the new law is a cocktail of constitutional violations. This was published on Wednesday, April the 14th, 2021. With the aim of reducing crimes facilitated by the use of cell phones, the federal Senate has approved the creation of a national registry of mobile phone users that will collect biometric data such as, get this, fingerprints and images of people's irises. Supported by most ruling party senators, the reform to the federal telecommunications and broadcasting law passed the upper house of Congress on Tuesday. The reform passed by the lower house last December makes it mandatory for people to join the registry, which is expected to be created within 3 years when they purchase a SIM card or acquire a new prepaid mobile telephone line. The objective for the reform is to reduce the incidence of crimes such as extortion and kidnapping, including asking for ransom, which are often aided by the use of unregistered cell phones. Many crimes facilitated by the use of phones have been traced to Mexican prisons. According to the reform, people purchasing a new SIM or seeking to activate a prepaid mobile phone will have to present ID, proof of address, and one form of biometric identification. That could be their fingerprints, images of their irises, or a range of facial features. The failure to provide the required documents and data is punishable by the definitive cancellation of the telephone line in question and the imposition of a fine of about 90,000 pesos or about $4,500 U.S. The reform states that the registry will remain confidential. Right, and people's personal information will be protected by existing federal data protection laws. But those laws don't make specific mention of biometric data. Digital rights activists and opposition lawmakers were critical of the reform, especially the inclusion of biometric data. Luis Fernando Garcia, the director of R3D, a digital rights defense network, said that existing laws to protect people's data are very bad, adding that personal data is systemically violated in Mexico. Miguel Angel Mancera, leader of the Democratic Revolutionary Party in the Senate, said that the creation of the registry would violate numerous sections of the Constitution. The reforms are a cocktail of constitutional violations, he said, adding that it would affect a range of civil guarantees. Mancera predicted that there will be a flood of injunction requests against the reform and expressed doubt that it will help to reduce crime. Institutional Revolutionary Party Senator Claudia Ruiz Maciel said the obligation for cell phone users to hand over their biometric data is a violation of their fundamental rights, including their right to privacy. She also said the establishment of a national registry could lead to people being wrongly accused of a crime. The registry violates the right to the presumption of innocence, because if a telephone number is used to commit a crime, it presumes that the owner of the registered line is guilty. The user is left in a state of complete defensiveness, Maciel said. National Action Party Senator Huichel Galvez claimed that the purpose of the registry is to keep an eye on the country's more than 100 million cell phone users, although President López Obrador says the government is not interested in spying on anyone. This project impinges on the privacy and the protection of personal data and violates freedom of communication, she said. With the establishment of a national registry, the government would become a kind of a big brother, Galvez said, referring to the mascot of the omnipresent surveillance state in George Orwell's novel, 1984. Independent Senator Emilio Alvarez y Casa said the establishment of a national registry of cell phone users is a hallmark of authoritarianism. It hinders the right to anonymous expression and facilitates the monitoring and control of the population in violation of human rights and fundamental freedoms, he said. There are only 17 countries that have a registry of this nature, all of them authoritarian, all with regimes that violate human rights: China, Afghanistan, Venezuela, and now we're going to include Mexico. López Obrador defended the plan, saying its purpose is to look after mobile phone users. It's a matter of security, he told the reporters at his news conference on Wednesday, adding that telecommunications companies don't like the idea because of the bureaucratic burden that it places on them. People already have to provide ID and biometric data, such as fingerprints, when signing up for other services, such as banking. But the telecommunications companies are opposed to having to collect personal information because they think that it'll affect sales, López Obrador said. This is for the safety of the people. It's not selling peanuts. It's selling a SIM card to have communication, and which can be used for extortion, kidnapping, or commit crimes. It's completely a matter of security for the protection of Mexicans. The president added that people shouldn't have any concerns about providing their personal and biometric data for inclusion in the registry. We are never going to carry out actions of espionage against anyone, he said. Right. Okay, anyway, I have a link from that article from El Universal in the show notes. And actually, we are going to actually be talking about cell phones with our next guest. And why not? Let's get to her right now. I met Polly on a beach, actually, over at the Ramadas, north of the airport. The Ramadas are that line of those flat-roofed wooden palapa kind of things. They serve mostly authentic Puerto Vallarta-style seafood, and the crowd is mostly local. And if you remember, I did an episode about the Ramadas, and if you haven't heard it, you can go back. I'll put a link to that show in the show notes, in these show notes. But anyway, my buddy Rabina set up an interview with Sabino Ron over at Sabino Ron's Ramada. And she had a caravan of her friends come on down with her, and it was a blast. There were just copious amounts of pescado serendiado that were being consumed by everybody. There was beer, there were cocktails. It was a great day. And one of the people that I met was Polly. Now, I'm into theater, and my ears perked up naturally when I found out that there were actual thespians in our midst. Don't get excited, guys. I said thespians, the theater. Anyway, we talked briefly about what was happening in the theater, the current projects with the people that were around the table, and, just small talk. And it was fun because I was able to meet people that up till then were just Facebook friends. And now, they were there in the flesh. It was nice. It was a great, great day. And of course, we capped that off with a terrific interview with Sabino Ron. And so, this all happened thanks to my buddy, Rabina Oliver. She is the Mermaid Queen. And by the way, even though the swimsuit shop is gone, Rabina still makes sales calls. So look her up. Or if you like, I'll hook you up too. She still has a very nice inventory of the latest pre-COVID styles. And anyway, over the many trips that I've made down to Puerto Vallarta, I've had the pleasure of getting together with really an ever-growing list of people that I've met doing these interviews. And since I'm usually in Puerto Vallarta without my wife, I have to eat by myself a bunch of times. And so I try to grab a friend, somebody that I can talk with, and, discuss what's going on in town over these meals. And since I've met Polly, I always find out if she's in town, of course. And if she is, we go out and grab a bite to eat. Now, last time I was in town, I asked Polly if she would come on the show. And she said that she'd have to think about it. It seems that actually when she listens, I also put her to sleep as well. So it took a little bit of convincing, I must admit. But I told her that I've been getting emails from single females who want to hear from other single females about what it's like moving to paradise, to Puerto Vallarta. And knowing Polly, she's got some great practical advice, not only to give to females, but, to anybody. You're single, if you're married, whatever, guys, gals, whoever is interested in moving full-time or even part-time to Puerto Vallarta, Polly's got some great ideas and some great tips. And she also has a great story to tell. This is a story about a feisty female from a small town in Arkansas and her firm desire to make a go at her new life on her terms in a little big town on the Mexican Riviera. So let's meet Polly, tripping the light fantastic in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. All right, Polly, thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and what was your path that led you to Puerto Vallarta?
All right. Well, it all started in Hot Springs, Arkansas, a very long time ago. And that was where I was born and raised. Just a little girl from a small town. I'm sure a lot of my friends won't say that. I was always like a big little personality in a small town. And after many years, I made it here to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Actually, my mama brought me on a Mexicoma.
A Mexicoma. All right.
Mexicoma.
What the hell is a Mexicoma? I've never heard of a Mexicoma.
Well, I was going through a divorce, and I wasn't doing real well with it. And so my mother decided that maybe a month in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, which she had been to many times, was exactly what I needed. And so that's what happened. And this was right before passport, so it was easy, for me. And so I came down here, and I got over one love and gained another.
Yeah, that kind of Mexicoma.
Yeah,
right on.
yeah.
Right
Well,
on.
but what I mean by that is, the first 2 or 3 days it was in bed, and my mother and my aunt were very, very gracious with me, knowing, and then came the exploring, and when we flew out that day, I was sitting on the airplane taking off. And by the way, this was the first time I'd ever been on an airplane too.
What year was this? Like in the 90s?
This was in 2005.
2005. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoa.
First time on an airplane? Really,
Wow.
Polly?
Yes.
Okay.
I know.
All right.
I know.
Okay.
I did say I was from Hot Springs, Arkansas, didn't I? So anyway, we were taking off, and I just couldn't control these huge tears that just started coming down my eyes. And my mother looked at me and she said, "Honey, what's wrong?" And I told her, I said, "Mama, I feel like I've left something." And she looked at me and she said, "Yes, honey, it was your heart, and you'll come back and get it. Don't worry." And she was absolutely right,
Yeah. So you've returned many times since then?
Yes. At least once a year, sometimes twice. I brought people down with me and came by myself. My mother ended up being what they call a snowbird. She'd come down here and stay for 3 months. And, of course, I would come when she was here because it was free stay.
Yeah.
And, everybody's got to like that. And I guess probably in 2011... I was walking through my house, Barry, and it was a trailer house in Bonnerdale, Arkansas. And there was something on the TV, and I heard the guy say, most of the people in the South never go within 50 miles of where they were born. And I was like, well, I got that, And then he said, and even a greater number never live more than 50 miles from where they were born. And that stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, wow, I don't want that to be me. And so I took a year, 2012. No, it started in 2011, but, went on through, it was like November, and I decided that I was going to get rid of everything. I'd empty nested already, and I was going to move to Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and of course everybody thought I was crazy.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And, that year was a very tough year. It was a very tough year, and I did things that I needed to do to prepare myself, and and there were things that I didn't need to do, but I wasn't sure. And when I say that, I'm talking about if I was out and I wanted a Coke, I would buy a canned Coke instead of a 20 ounce. I thought that way. Saving money. That's what that's what I thought about. And so, yeah, in 1 year I was ready and I moved to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I'd even taken on a job at an Embassy Suites in Hot Springs, Arkansas, because I knew that if you worked there for 6 months, they would transfer you to anywhere in the world. I had found that out in doing my homework. And so I knew that there was a Hilton being built here, and that was my plan.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
It was a great plan. You know, I saved up about $2,500. And so I believe it was November the 13th, I flew down here with a couple of suitcases, didn't know the language, didn't know anybody, didn't know where I was going to stay or anything like that, but I did have a job. I knew that. Well, for a week I knew that because that was when Mexico got a new president and he froze all that up. So, so then there was that. So,
So you didn't have a job.
well, no, I did not. And my mama had been here about a month beforehand, and she had done some homework too, because she was sending her baby, or letting her baby, or however you want to say it. She is a Southern mama. She came down and checked things out. And so she had given me enough money for 3 days of staying in this little place on Franciscus Mandero called the Azteca. And she'd given me, she'd given me enough money.
What a beautiful spot.
Right, right. So anyway, I had 3 days to find an apartment and find a life.
They rent those places out for an hour at a time over there.
I know that. I didn't know that at the time. But, sometimes you just got to turn your head.
Yeah,
you just can't watch what you're seeing, But anyway, so 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
and I was like, what? And so I wondered, I like tequila. I love Jesus, but I drink a little. And so I wandered into a tequila shop within those 3 days, and I met this guy. And now this might not be politically correct, but this is what he called. He had, told me he was a deport from the United States, and that, anyway, he told me that later on because we were talking, and then I told him I'm needing a place to stay, and he said, well, you can stay. And then I told him, no, I've moved here. I need a place to live. I'm sorry, And so anyway, he was like, look, I think I got a place for him. And that's when he told me, we had talked, and he said, you meet me here when I get off work tonight, 9 o'clock, and we'll walk up. I'll take you and show you this place. And so I was like, okay. And I did. And, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I thought, man, it's 9 o'clock at night. And I have no phone service yet here in Mexico because I hadn't figured that out yet either. And I was like, and I'm just fixing to take off with this guy and go up. And I'm like, well, if I die tonight, I guess I'm going to die tonight. But we talked on the way up, and that's when he told me that he was a deport and that he was actually one of they were hated worse than I was.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And there's reasons for it, and we won't get into, that or, they believe, But anyway, he was actually very, very beneficial, him and a couple of others, And so I indeed got the place. And one of the funny things that had happened was the place that I'd gotten was, and we talked about this earlier. It's up there. It's in the hood.
I
okay.
know, yeah.
And so, and it's also up against the jungle. And me and him and the landlord, and he was, of course, translating for us. And the landlord was telling me I'll cut all this back. And so, man, he looked at me and he said, well, or you can just get a machete and do it yourself. And I looked at him and I said, I know, I brought one in my suitcase. And I really had. And he thought that was hilarious. He was like, you are kidding. And I was like, no, seriously, why would I not bring a machete? I mean, we use those for everything where I'm from, So anyway, that was, that.
So that was up on Calle Peligroso.
Oh, yeah.
That little windy alleyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's incredible. So you lived up there. You You had to walk up that street every night?
Oh, all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
and it was, walking down. And back then, they still had the Wi-Fi cafes here, and which I've told you about, being a gringo, there were some. And having, a D-port as my new best friend had its advantages because he found me someone who could, I don't know if I should say this out loud, but de-scramble passwords around me in my apartment. So any time of the day I could be found stealing Wi-Fi from somebody, But
Okay, how much did that cost you?
Yeah, it was 100 pesos.
100 pesos, that's it?
Yes.
Jeez, all right,
Yeah.
all right, well.
Yeah, I know. It's
Nice. There are people that you should know.
There
Yeah.
is. There are. Yeah. I learned a long time ago. It's not always what you know; it's who you know.
How long were you up there on Calle Pedregoso with that $2,500?
Well, after I found out I couldn't get a job, I looked at my money. Well, it was pesos at that time, and I was like, well, I'm just going to have to do this as long as I can. And I figured I might add, 4 months. I'm going to do what I can, and then I'm just going to have to call Mama, and she's going to have to fly me home, or and I knew that would be okay.
Yeah.
And so shortly after that, one of the things, even though I could, I was being able to kind of to steal Wi-Fi, still calling home. Not all my friends had, email and all that. So calling home was important. And there's a little bar called K Pasa. Some of y'all probably know that little bar. But anyway, they would let you call home for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
And that was very important.
Or did
I mean, I
at the
could go
time.
there. Yes. And I could, I could go there and at happy hour and buy a beer. And not that I really like beer, but I could call my mama and such, And that's basically where the big story began, because I was there one night and I was making that phone call, and I looked up on the wall, and there was a poster for an audition for a play. And I'd never been in a play, never really had gone and seen a play besides, my kids' plays and stuff like that. But I was pretty sure I had something in me. And then, it was a play called Sordid Lives, and it was listed as a black comedy about white trash. And I was like, yeah, I think I got that, And for me, not ever seeing anything more than a high school play, it was just going to be something to kill my time. I had but I looked on there, and there was a list of characters that were, being looked for, and I saw this one, and it was LaVonda Jean Dupree, and she was, a high-strung, high-spirited, liberal woman, and I was like, yeah, well, that's me. That's me. I can do that. And so there was 2 days for an audition, and I went and auditioned, and the audition is probably one of the most famous things I've done, because I walked into this office, and which I was not expecting an office setting, right?
Yeah, you'd think a stage,
I've never
right?
been. I auditioned.
Yeah,
When you're in school, the music teacher picks you. And so I went in there and I looked around, and there was all these people there, and they had scripts, and they were reading and rehearsing, and and I was like, oh no, I'm standing there in a half T-shirt with University of Eastern Kentucky on it, and a pair of Daisy Dukes, and these little ponytails in my hair, that some of them referred to later as doo-doo balls. And they all stopped what they were doing to look at me. And I knew I had just stepped in it. I'd stepped in it. I was going to have to do something right then, about that time, a man named Danny Manini, who was going to be the director, he pushed his glasses down. He looked at me and said, "Can I help you?" And I just stood there and looked at all of them, and I put one hand on my hip. I said, "My name is Polly Sue Cooper, and my mama said if y'all don't put me in this play, there's something wrong with each and every one of you." And this lady sitting in the back, she stood up and she said, "Thank you, Jesus. I knew you were listening." And she was about the only Southerner in the room, and she was from Alabama. Her name was Elizabeth Wiggins, and that's basically where it started. I think my audition was they wanted me to say the word mama and bullshit, and that's what I did. And next thing you know, I've got rehearsals, and and I'm running up, and it was great. Luckily for them and me, I guess, I thought that I needed to have everything memorized, by the first rehearsal. So they were real happy about that.
Yeah, wow.
I know better now. I'm a little lazier about that now, but back then I wasn't. And Barry, that's really where my PV life started. I mean, most of my best friends to this day, I met, on stage, a lot of what I have here, most of what I have here, is because of Act Two, and there you go. There's one promotion right there. We did start at the Palm, and it was wonderful, and we were a hit. I mean, the first year that we were at the Palm, it was people standing outside. It was, of course, I did my own hair. I didn't wear a wig or anything, I did my own hair because it was set in the 1980s and, in Texas. And so I knew what that hairdo looked like, and I had hair for it. And when we would leave at night, people would be screaming Lavonda. I mean, it took me almost a year, But yeah, that's where it all began.
Wow. All right. So from that, were there any other plays, or was it Sordid Lives?
Sordid Lives is where it started.
Yeah.
Yes, there have been other plays. We did Sordid Lives twice.
Okay.
Actually.
2 seasons.
Yes, yeah. We did 2 seasons of it. We did first, and then we did it about 2 or 3 years later, and had mostly the same, cast. We've all, had conversations, and Del Shores even came down and watched it the first year that we did it, and he was I think you could say happily surprised.
Yeah,
that his play was done so well. I think he said it was almost. He said, I think somebody quoted him as saying it was like having, green bean casserole at Thanksgiving. You know. Yeah. So and I have a lot of respect and admiration for Del Shores. One of the things that he said that you read when you get your script from him is that he did not want the characters to be played as cartoon characters. They were not. They were, a lot of them came from real people that were in his life, and I understood that, like many people in the cast, and I emphasized that with them. All the way through it, I got it. I felt that in my heart.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and then after that, I got a theater bug. I'd like to say I was a theater kid, but I was, golly, in my late 40s then. But I got it. I got theater. I got everything about it. I've since then I've assisted directed. I've done costume changes for people, and I'm talking 47 costume changes on one person.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I mean, like in that play, there was one change. I had like 37 seconds to change a person from one character to another, and that's happened to me a couple times. But it's now we're just going to and last year I developed a character named Betty June during quarantine. You know, I was actually with Joan D. Houston, and I was helping her rehearse for her show. Oh, there's another plug. Didn't mean to do that. Anyway, and I was laying on the couch because we were at her house, and I just started doing a video of just somebody, just a Southern woman. And when I got through, Joan came out, and she said, "Who were you talking to?" And I said, "Yeah, well, I was talking to Betty June," and just kind of laughed. Joan's partially sighted, and I make fun of her sometimes, and that was just a joke on her. And it took off. By that next morning, I could not believe everybody that. And so I did, a couple and more in the next 2 or 3 days, and started looking for a name. And how I got Betty June's name is from that first night, because I was really seriously thinking something else. And another friend of mine who lives upstairs from Joan was listening to it on Facebook on one of the other ones that, the new ones I had done. And Joan walked in and she said, "Is that Betty June?" And Jamie said, "No, Joan, that's Polly." And she goes, "No, that's Betty June, because Polly was talking to her the other night, and that's how, it just kind of went from there. But anyway, I've developed her, and I'm gonna, it was just to make people feel good, and then I started getting responses from it, some heart touching, responses of how Betty June, and I like how Betty June had touched their life, and they were from friends of mine, by the way, and people that I knew, and I loved the way that they understood that Betty June's not me. I honestly have to put on Betty June's lipstick before I can get that voice, get her. It's a transformation. It really is. Yeah. Even though I developed her, and and so they. They would even approach me with, you did, blah, 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 which, made all the difference in the world. It was like, "Polly, Betty June, let me tell you what Betty June did for me." And I did not talk to her before we did this, so I'm not going to mention her name. But one that really, really got to me and made me decide that I needed to bring Betty June out, and possibly even on stage. We'll talk about that in a different story. But she told me her husband has Alzheimer's, and she is wonderful, and he is a very fortunate man, and she is too. And one of the things that she does for him every week is she gives him a pedicure and a manicure every week. And so, seeing Betty June, she developed a character that she called Flo. And every week now, when she does his pedicure and manicure, she does it as Flo.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And he knows Flo. I'm not sure that he knows that she's Flo, but he knows Flo, and she told me he looks forward to spending that time with Flo every week, and that got to me, Barry, and I was like, wow, it made me realize that, there's some people who need a simple Southern woman in their life, I did. I was raised by a few of them, my mama was a joy to be raised by, and I'm very fortunate. Now, we are not in day, but and she feels that's the same way about me. So I think that's really cool.
I can't wait to meet Betty June.
Yeah, and it's Betty June Harper. If anybody wants to, go on Facebook, and send her a friend request, by all means.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
and Betty is spelled Bety. June is Jun, and there is a story on there on how she got her name. Now, it's not the one I just told you, because that's boring, but the one that she tells is much funnier and much better, and it was one of her first. So,
All right.
but anyway, so yeah, it's Betty June Harper, and there probably will be appearances from Flo, yeah,
All right.
but so
All right,
anyway.
so I'll have a link to that in the show notes. You'll be able to find it at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. And then, of course, I'll have pictures of Polly in costume with her hair, because she'll have that for me. Right, Polly?
Yes,
Yeah,
why?
okay.
Of course I will. Okay, Stephen Jackson. Let's see, out here. I need all of y'all to send me pictures of
Yes.
the place.
If you got pictures, do it now. Send them to Polly. She'll send them to me. Let's move from the theater. Let's move from your characters, because my listeners, I get lots of email, and I get some email from females who are looking to move to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and they're looking for advice, and they want to know how you plan and how you do it, and how do you survive, how do you make it work.
Okay, well, first of all, I love the way that you started that question, because it's not just Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where if a woman is deciding, do your homework. All right, there are other great places, that a gringa can go and start a life. Puerto Vallarta is one of the most expensive, and not a lot. But yes, I have been to other places. Matter of fact, I've gone to more states in Mexico than I have in my own country.
Yeah.
But there's other places. But do your homework. That is the most important advice that I can give. Do your homework. Look into what's going on, in places. And it starts as something as simple as using keywords in Google. Cheapest places for an American to live in Mexico, stuff like that. Anything that, if you want, the perfect temperature, then it might not be Puerto Vallarta year round. What is it that you want out of your new life? And that's basically what it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be a new life.
When you are, a lot of people have mentioned that when you get here, is the best time to look for a long-term apartment when you're got feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. You know what? That's the way I did it in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's the way I've always done it. And you know what? Yeah, I am going to say that, because I know people who have done it the other way, and then they've got here and were scammed. What they saw online was not what was for real.
Yeah.
So, and you and I have also talked about how I would like at some point to help people with that once they get here. Check out neighborhoods while you're back home. That's another one of the things. Check out neighborhoods. And it's easy. I mean, like I said, back to keywords on Google. Colonia is what they call them here. Just in Puerto Vallarta, and there's several, and you'll get a lot of interesting. And don't always stay at the surface of it. A lot of I have been in very few neighborhoods here in Puerto Vallarta that I just didn't feel comfortable in. And it wasn't that I've never felt in danger, but I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is not, this is not where I need to hang out.
Right. This is not going to suit my style, my lifestyle.
Exactly. Exactly.
So how do you get around? Do you use a bus? Do you got a car? Do you walk? What do you do?
Most of the time I do take a bus.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that, I've, moved back and forth so many times that, I now know where I want to live and where I can afford to live and, where I can't. And the challenge a lot with that now is finding convenient transportation, which is for me a bus, and I do have a little dog, and Romeo goes with me. And I do take him on the buses and the cabs and whatever, I do. But, being able to have a bus station nearby is very important. It's one of my main things that I look for. My recent neighborhood that I've just stayed in, there is, it's next to the PTL River, so there's a pedestrian bridge right over into the end of the city bus line. Woohoo! I know that sounds silly, but I feel like I have finally made it here, Barry. Being able to be that convenient. Every 20 minutes the bus is going to leave and it's going to take me wherever I want to go. I just got to figure out where that is.
And it's the end of the line.
Yeah, it's the end of the line, and it's a good thing.
Up and get you out.
Because, I have gone to see the house, and I took a cab one time, and when I got there and the cab told me how much, I'm like, you ain't going to play me. And luckily, once again, he was a deport, and he was like, look, girl, when I leave here, I got to go wash my car before I can pick anybody else up. Look, the road is dusty, everything. And I was like, you right. You not. And so I now know that.
Yeah.
If a cab is coming to get, Uber ain't coming. They ain't coming. They know that neighborhood. They call it the AKA the neighborhood the government has forgotten. They don't pave the roads there and everything. Uber ain't coming.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
About now, that's a neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's beautiful now. I don't want everybody moving there, but it is lovely.
Okay, well, we won't tell exactly
where
it is.
exactly. Okay, yeah. I think I did. So, anyway, and now I know, if I don't care where I am, if I can't function a bus home, or I'm going to have to pay
so now
taxi and car washing. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, okay. So now you probably don't go to Que Pasa to make phone calls. So how do you deal with phones?
You could get phone service here. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but I mean, it's actually, you can get internet and phone service at landline, and it's about 350 pesos.
Okay.
That's
a
month.
Okay, you guys. So that's about $16, $17 US.
Yeah, that's what he said.
And that's your monthly. That's your monthly rate for cell phone service here.
Well, no, not for cell phone. That's for a landline and Wi-Fi. Okay.
All right.
For
that's
me,
still cheap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about what you want.
Right.
And so for me, that's affordable.
Yeah.
I can do that a month, and that's a landline, like I said, and Wi-Fi. All right.
Okay.
And then comes with that a Fire Stick and Netflix. All right. That's my entertainment right there, and it's 350 pesos plus the
Okay, so the Fire Stick gets you some cable.
Yeah, or
American
YouTube,
TV, whatever it is.
YouTube, Netflix. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you hook it up to your Wi-Fi, and so that's my entertainment. That's cheap. It's 350, pesos a month.
Okay, so remember this because I brought a Fire Stick down for somebody on this trip. Yeah. So if you're planning on moving down here or moving down to Mexico, buy a Fire Stick, bring it with you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right. Absolutely. And then we'll talk about cell phones.
Let's talk about cell phones
next.
Okay.
Cell phone, I will tell you this, a lot of things down here are cheaper. All right. And a lot of things aren't. Cell phones are one of those things that aren't. An easy way to remember is how I learned. All necessities are very cheap here. All wants are not. And I'll break it down even simpler for that. I have a clothesline, a wash machine, and a clothesline. The stuff, the rope I bought to make the clothesline out of was clothesline rope, and it was cheap. I mean, it was super cheap. Okay, the clothespins, very expensive.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because you can just throw clothes over a line if you want to hang them. Like clotheslines, that's something you want. It's not necessary.
Right.
And so that's what I mean by that.
How interesting is that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
bring your own clothespins.
Bring your own clothespins and your own unlocked cell phone.
Okay, so unlocked is a key here.
It is because that's what
you
I'm
wanna-
dealing
yeah.
with this time. I just
So you got to get rid of whatever service you were using up north.
Yes.
And you got to use the local service here and make
yes,
it work.
yeah.
Okay, so
you
you
have
have-
to, and I don't care what your phone service says. They got me this time.
Yeah.
I bought an international plan. Well, that meant when I go home, I can still call people down here. It was not what I thought
No.
it was going to be. And I bought a brand new phone, didn't take it out of the box till I got here, and somehow it was locked. So, but it goes back to who you know. And I now know where I'm going to take it and get it unlocked. And I'm not going to say that out loud either because I don't know if that's legal either. But but I am going actually on Thursday to have that undone. And then what you do is you go to any OXXO, and you tell them you want to buy a Sims card. It costs you about 100 pesos for a Sims card. You put it in your phone. I do a plan where it's 200 pesos for a month, and that's unlimited, 200 pesos.
Wow.
Tell them how much that is in U.S. dollars.
Yes, 200
Barry,
pesos
'cause
is $10.
all right,
Yeah.
and so I have phone service.
Yeah. Now that is cheap.
It is cheap.
Yeah.
And some people, there's gringos that come down there and they lock themselves into, plans, and that was not what I needed to do, and that's not what I found that I could afford.
Right.
And so
this new SIM card that you pop in, that's got your new phone number, it's got your Mexican phone
Yes.
number, that's got the whole 9 yards.
all the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's like they make it so simple for you. I mean, it's written on there.
And then what about a data plan?
You just get that at OXXO.
Okay.
Yeah, you just
And
go
so
there.
the same thing,
and
right?
I
And
can say it's Telcel is the one that I use. I just go up there and and I use
how much is a data plan? What are they talking about for that?
200 pesos.
Oh,
it's
the
all.
same.
That's
So,
everything.
200
pesos.
That SIM card is your data plan, and you're no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know what? That is important because as well versed as I am down here and travel and everything else, sometimes I get lost too.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. That's a very scary feeling sometimes when when no one knows the Spanish that you know, or English, or don't know, or people ask me, "Are you fluent in Spanish?" I say, "No, honey, but I'm fluent in Mexican." I can, they can ask me something and I can answer them in English, and sometimes that's not always, but I once again I fall back on that. I'm fluent in Mexican, so I make it. But yeah, it's very important to have a cell phone on you at all times. It really is. I mean, to the point that one of my necessities is a travel battery pack, for my phone. I never need for my phone service to go out.
All right, now that is really important. Can you imagine, being out somewhere and then all of a sudden you're looking at your phone and it's got the little red line, the little red line saying you got, less than 15% left, and that goes really fast, and then you are SOL. You are stuck. You're
That's right.
nowhere.
You are where you are.
Do you understand that, folks? Do you understand
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
So that is
and
a
like I
great
said,
thing.
I am well versed here, and it still, from time to time, happens.
Yeah. So great suggestion.
Yeah.
Great tip.
Yeah.
As you've come back and forth. You've done this several times. What are the must things that you need to bring down with you?
Women's hygiene products. I'm sorry, but it's true. I don't know what they got going on down here, but they just don't work that well. Brassieres. Once again, I hate to tell you this, ladies, but they're made out of cardboard down here. I suggest even lacy ones, and I mean I don't know if this is okay if I say this.
Of course
I guess
it is.
you're-
This is called the podcast. We talk about everything.
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Lacy ones.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you don't
Airy,
like them.
right? Airy.
Yeah, you need
need
air.
airflow.
Girls, you need air. I cannot say that enough. You need air.
Need air and powder.
Yes, yes. Which brings me, good deodorant, Bring the best deodorant that you have found. I know for me, I started with the Secret Clinical. I'm serious about this. I mean, that you sweat in ways you didn't know, and in places you never knew that you could sweat.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Velveeta cheese.
Oh, no.
Yes.
No,
Barry,
no,
that ain't funny.
Polly.
Yeah.
I mean, just this is not a necessity, everyone. It's just
Oh, okay,
for those of you who
okay.
really like Velveeta cheese. So just remember that you don't need to bring the Velveeta cheese if you don't like it, okay? That's all I'm saying. All right. But if you like it.
Oh, my God. If you're
Polly
from the South, honey, you're not going to need to bring it, okay?
Okay, all right.
All right.
I love that. All right.
And there was a time in the last decade there, it was like Mama had to bring a whole separate suitcase that she'd have to weigh daily, adding stuff to it to bring to me. It's like I live in Mexico, but my mama brings me things.
Yeah.
But it has really evolved. And for me, that's good. A lot of people complain about it, but I'm glad that I can get things down here now that I miss.
Right.
So there's not a lot, Barry, that necessarily.
Have you ever ordered anything with Amazon Mexico?
No, but I have lived with someone, so I've had to move boxes a lot.
Yeah. Does it work?
Yes.
Okay.
It does work. Please look at the mailing charge and I know at one point, and this was last year, I was living in a neighborhood, and this is not all neighborhoods, but where I needed rubber boots, and I did not see that happening for rainy season. I everywhere I lived, I had to get some rubber boots, y'all. I ain't never wore rubber boots, but so I was going to order them online, and I found them at the Walmarts, $19.99, and they were cute. Oh, they were cute. But it was going to cost me over $30 to get them.
Yeah, to have them shipped to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Through, Mexico, through the Amazon Mexico. So, they haven't got all that figured yet that I know of. But, yes, it does come, and it does come timely.
Good. All right, so let's see. We've covered phone. We've covered things that you need to bring. Did we cover all of that? Or are there items that you want to talk
one
about?
thing that we do to bring is what I was talking about earlier about doing your homework in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Know your neighborhood. Learn it quickly. There's corner stores in every neighborhood, everywhere. I think we talked about this the other day. I realized that I was making my grocery list in Spanish before I was even attempting to speak in Spanish, because that's what it was called at the grocery store.
Right.
You understand what I'm
sure,
saying? It
yeah.
was like if I went looking for a watermelon, I wouldn't. It wasn't going to be. I couldn't ask for that. And y'all can laugh at that if you want to, but when I first moved down here and I was going to the Mexican supermarkets, I mean, you could find the motor oil, the eggs, and the baby diapers all right next to each other on an aisle. So there was no rhyme or reason.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when I say, y'all can laugh all you want, but you better know what you're asking for, because a watermelon might not be where you think a watermelon's supposed to be. Yeah. So, but know your neighborhood. Get to know. I don't care if you know how to use your pesos yet, or speak any kind of Spanish or anything. You got to try. And the first place to start is at your little corner store. And
Most
after
of them, they're
they're
family owned.
Yes.
They are so sweet.
Yes,
they
they
want
are.
to be helpful because
Yes.
they want you to keep coming back.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And now I know enough. But before, I'd like just walk by and let them know for like 2 or 3 days that I was there and I was staying there. Because I was afraid. I was like, hey, if I don't know how many pesos is a peso, But anyway, but that's, know your neighborhood. Know, and get out there and say hola to everybody you see at first. And buenos dias. That's very important. People love to hear that in the morning. So.
What about What about banking?
I don't.
Okay, all right. Well,
Okay,
that made it easy for everybody.
Yeah. No, I prepare myself in a different way.
Okay.
I come here with a prepaid, money card. I'm using. I'm not going to tell you what I'm using, but anyway, there are some good ones. Look into that.
Okay.
That they can be
prepaid
but they
cards.
can be, that they have
be
a
reloaded,
direct,
right?
Yes, to be reloaded,
Okay.
easily reloaded and cheaply, and that has a direct deposit
Okay.
for any reason. Now, I just needed that this time, but make sure it's got a routing and account number, just in case you're getting, funds, through direct deposit or need to pay something or whatever,
Right.
back home. So, but that's what prepaid, and do your homework on that.
Excellent.
Because there's different prepaid cards for what you need. And make sure, and sometimes you have to really dig into it, but make sure that you can use that card
Yeah.
in Mexico.
In Mexico. Yeah, that's the first.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
So, in these places that you rent, what's? do they have water filtration systems? Do you drink out of the faucet around here?
Okay. That is a very good question because, yes, Puerto Vallarta does have a filtering system for their city water.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it United States qualified? Possibly not. I don't know. A lot of my friends, my besties around here who have been here for, a couple of decades at least, still do not drink the water in some neighborhoods. So they buy the big jugs of water, which is very, very easy to do and very cheap. I mean, they come out, you'll hear them, the guys in the trucks, yo, that's the way they say it, but for me, yeah, I can pretty much now don't get me wrong. I've had Guardia more times than most people have ever even heard the word, because I've done some silly things, Barry. I mean, they were adventurous. I will not suggest drinking a coffee that costs you 20 pesos and it's a full glass, but they get the milk right out of the cow. I was very, very sick after that. But you know what? I wouldn't suggest it, but it was an adventure. I mean, he kicked that calf right off the tit and squeezed it right into my cup, and I drank it. I did. I drank it.
Got sicker than a dog.
Sicker than I've ever been in my entire life.
Do you hear that? You guys?
Yeah.
You
Don't drink out of a cow.
You go to that rancho, and they go, "This is great," and here we're going to put some booze in here.
It was. There was tequila.
I know what it was. You tell them, no gracias, no gracias. You know what? Tequila solo está bien, but the rest,
holy
no.
gosh.
Yeah. Hold the leche.
My goodness. Anyway. Oh, my.
All right, well, let's...
Okay, but as far as, no, don't come down here. And, and even in the restaurants, take all the advice. It's another thing, if they bring you some ice out and it don't have a hole in the middle of it, don't drink. I don't care if it's Coca-Cola or not. You know, I mean, you got to watch yourself like that. And, also realize that, our Tex-Mex is not Mexican food. I still, to this day, Barry, whenever I fly back home here, I have Mexican belly a couple of 3 days because everything's just a little bit different, because I want to dive into everything. And, honey, I'll eat street tacos all day. I'll eat them. I don't care if I drop it on the street. You hear what I'm saying? That kind of street taco. I can drop a street taco on the street. I'm still going to pick it up and eat it. I'm nasty. I am. I'm, but, and I would not suggest that for anybody. I mean, I will. I'll pick up a mango on the ground and just bite right into the skin. I don't even care. But, I wouldn't suggest that for everybody. But, yeah, I mean, it's, just, wash everything. And they have this stuff. I can't even remember what it's called. You might know.
Yes, they have these little drops that you drop into.
Wash your vegetables in it. I will tell you this. I don't eat lettuce unless I buy it from Costco.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I just don't.
Good tip.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's one of these things. It's got a lot of crevices.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
you know, and you got to wash it good. And if you're soaking it,
And I mean, I'm talking about even in Arkansas. You know, if I buy a head of lettuce and it has, you know, made in Mexico, I'm like, nope.
All right.
I've
All right.
had
As long as we're talking about food, let's get into the food. Let's get into the bonus round. Let's
All
talk
right.
about your favorite breakfast, lunch, and dinner places around here. So let's start with breakfast. I mean, if you had a choice of a breakfast spot, what would be your first pick?
I don't know what it's called, and I'm not even sure it's got a name, but it is it's in Old Town, and it's back there at the big produce market. You know, most of the gringos go there. I think is that Amelia Zapata? Is that the neighborhood?
That is the Amelia Zapata Market. Yeah, no, it's the it is. Of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah. If you go past, you know, the produce and the meat thing, there is a restaurant, and it's just a row of picnic tables. Do you know where I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
In a hallway.
In a hallway. Yeah.
That's where I do breakfast.
So there's three little
Yes,
restaurants
I
in
do the
there.
middle.
Now, which one? The middle one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the middle one, the middle of the three, and you are so right, Polly.
Yeah.
They make great
my gosh.
great down home cooking. It's
Yeah.
very good, and it's very simple and very inexpensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I do.
Excellent.
I'm glad
I
you
love that.
know
I love that place. All right. What else?
If I'm out, you know, partying at night, you know, the taco stands across from Reina's, you know, on there on is that Cardenas?
Yeah, Lázaro Cardenas.
Yeah.
Yes, right there, right next to
Yeah,
Guadalajara
I'm doing that.
Pharmacy.
I'm all into that.
Yeah,
you know,
so I was there last night. What can I tell you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we do.
Yeah.
That's where we gather. You know, we do to feed. I say that's
it's
where
cheap. You know, you can get free tacos and something to drink for $3. You know, I mean, just for it's nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's good.
Yeah, it's
you know, and they know they're English speaking. They know that a lot of their customers are gringos because we're all partying.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to give that thing out for Frida's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, their steaks. You want a good steak, and I think we and you talked about. Man, it's just like home.
Really?
They know exactly what they're doing. If you tell them medium rare, it is lovely.
And they moved. They're where Manny's used to be.
Yeah.
All right, so they're on Lázaro Cardenas too, and they knocked down their building. By the way, if you're looking for it, it's a big hole in the wall right now.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's nothing there.
Yeah. You know, and Tom and Luis and you know, Felipe and all the bartenders at, you know, in Beto, they're great people, you know. Yeah, and that's also where I like to drink. They have a house tequila there that's very inexpensive a shot, and they've got big shots. Big shots.
Big shots.
Yeah, yeah. I know the bartenders well there. They've put me in taxis and stuff like that.
Good for
Anyway,
them.
but
Good for
yeah,
them.
great place. You know, great place.
Any other? Maybe how about a lunch spot? You have any favorite lunch spots?
Once again, I'm a cheap girl, you know. So I like everything cheap. Every now and then, Burger King comes into play.
No way.
Oh gosh, about every other month. No, Barry, I'm sorry.
You have to do it, right? You
yeah,
gotta do it.
I mean, the Whopper calls and you have to answer. You know, but Barracudas.
Yeah.
I love, and you know that place. I like to go by myself when I go there, just to, you know, take that all in. I love being there at sunset. Also, you know, Cita Rojo is one of my favorite drinks to have there.
Okay.
And I don't know if, you know, there was a little controversy on this, but I love the oysters underneath the bridge, you know, off the Malecon there. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Yeah, well, don't be sorry. You know,
Yeah,
it's
it's
you know your
inexpensive.
body better
Yeah,
than me. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, other than that, you know, I've been to places, but I eat a lot of, you know, we call it ghetto Chinese, the real cheap Chinese places, you know.
Yeah, they got several of them around.
So
there.
yeah, I'm not real safe, you know, when it comes to eating. So I wouldn't take all of my advice, but yes.
Here, Polly with the iron stomach. You guys, but you know. What she's doing is she's living like a local, okay? She doesn't run off to every fancy restaurant. She is living off of carts, which is what I do when I'm around here because I don't have time to sit down in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And of course, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
So.
What's your favorite bar? Bar Frida, right? Is
Yes.
that your favorite bar?
Yes, it is.
All right. You ever do coffee around here? What's your favorite coffee place?
I'll tell you what. I don't go for coffee around here very much, and there's some places that are very popular, and you can look, but I have not frequented them. I will tell you that when I got here, one of my besties, Joan, she had gotten coffee for me to make at her house, because that's what I like to do. People don't want to see me for coffee. Okay, they want to see me after coffee. Barry, don't be silly. But she got me some coffees at this new little place, and it was right down from where you and I were both staying when you first got here. Was called Memories.
Oh yeah,
and it was
sure.
their house coffee. It's lovely.
Really
Yes.
interesting.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
I mean, she got me the bean version.
Now, is this the memory? This is the one is on the top of
It's off Nicaragua.
Okay.
I want to say Brazil, maybe.
Okay.
I don't, but it's called Memories.
Memories. Okay. You have been to several other places in Mexico that you were mentioning, or
Yeah, Ajijic.
Ajijic,
yeah,
and
I've been to Mazatlan and Lake Chapala. Ajijic, I actually have spent enough time there that I have girlfriends there now.
Yeah.
And
what do you think of
I love
Ajijic?
it. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I get that everything's closing down at 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, because people are OLD over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. OLD. I like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say purgatory.
No.
But since you did, that spells purgatory. But I love Ajijic.
Wow.
It's beautiful. I mean, there is no ocean there, but the mountains are insanely gorgeous. Sunset behind them is gorgeous. Lake Chapala is lovely. I like Ajijic a lot.
Okay.
The food's very good.
How price wise?
Cheaper.
Cheaper than here.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
No way. Okay,
Yeah.
All right.
That's okay to say, right?
Of course it is. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we need to know.
Yeah,
We need to know.
yeah. They, especially eating out and such, and I think it's basically the catering to to the gringos in the community.
Yeah.
But the service is fantastic. I mean, you don't have to, and please don't take this wrong, but you don't have to ask for the check and then it comes 27 minutes later. They get the procedure, and I understand why that's a problem. But they've learned that if they want the gringo money, that's the gringo tips. That's what
That's what you do. You bring
Yeah.
them the bill when they want it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause that's the worst. If you
I-
think about that,
yeah.
as a waiter, and
they find it rude to have to
Well,
ask
I
you,
understand
and I
that,
do too.
but as a waiter, when you ask for the bill, when you ask for the bill, that should be the first thing that you do is grab that thing, because
It better
you
be
know
ready.
the
It
tip
should
is
be ready.
coming next.
Oh my God,
And
I've
if
worked
you-
in
and
hospitality.
If you
yeah.
wait for 15 minutes and bring, then your tip just went down 25%,
Oh
or,
yeah.
or worse.
Well,
right?
well, it doesn't for me, because
I know
I
that.
because
Oh, I know
I've tried to train.
I'm just talking about at home. Here, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I know it's
Yeah,
money on it.
exactly,
They get a tip
but-
anyway. I don't
Yeah.
stiff anybody.
And I've even said, I don't care if it takes us gringos an hour and 17 minutes to eat lunch. When we want that check, we want it. We only want to be there an hour and 18 minutes.
Right.
Okay.
Just one more minute. That's all we
That's
need.
all we.
here.
That's what
That's right.
But anyway, it's lovely, and like I said, it is cheaper. You can find places there. Well, it's kind of blown up.
Yeah. Well, what about Mazatlan?
My experience in Mazatlan is I'd already lived here for 7 years, so I was like, "Wow, they need to get it together." And I do not want to deter anybody from going to the beautiful.
Yeah.
But
The beautiful Mazatlan.
it is beautiful. It is. But I was like, they need to get all this traffic and they need to get this together. What is going on here?
Yeah. What's wrong with these people?
Right. Where are who are these peoples?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If you had a word of advice for a first-time visitor to Puerto Vallarta, what would it be?
Always remember that you're a foreign man in a foreign land. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's very, and if I put it in a different way, when I'm not talking publicly. I mean, it's like I don't care who you think you are, how important you think you are to anybody. You're just another person. And so that is very important. And, I don't, and I don't like the fear mongers that, that say, oh my gosh, it's dangerous down there. It is nothing like that. I do not ever, and I am a single white female, and I walk around, I don't care. I do as I want, but I also know that
you're a single white female
at the end of the day, I'm just a gringo.
Yeah.
And I get that, and I know that, So, and it's the same in our country too, I mean, at the end of the day, you're just a foreign man in a foreign land if you're not from there.
Yeah.
And that's, So, that would be my most, that's okay, right? Is that?
Of course that's okay. That's wonderful.
All right.
What about a word of warning?
That was it.
Okay, same.
Yeah.
Advice and warning,
Yeah.
all wrapped up in one package.
Yeah, know your money.
Yeah.
Here in Puerto Vallarta, they take American dollars, and they usually have a listing for it. Know your money. When you figure out, and I mean, study that, a little bit. It changes every day, but no. A lot of people, they're like, well, it's colored, so that is not necessarily true. I just in the last couple 3 years realized that the bills, they're shorter. The higher the amount, the longer, just a little bit, the longer the bills. And that's what you need to go by, when you're,
reaching in your pocket.
Exactly, because now they have 200 peso bills that are blue and 20 peso bills that are blue.
500 pesos that are blue.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh,
No.
Great. Now here we go again.
And they got a 200 peso bill that is green, and they got a 200 peso bill that is red now.
Exactly.
So,
they're on to us,
Yeah,
is basically.
they know.
They are on that. We just thought it was Monopoly money, So, remember that.
Yeah.
As the numbers go up on the bills, it becomes longer. It's bill gets longer.
Do you have anything coming up in theater-wise other than our new character?
Well, Barry, I always support, all the acts here in PV. They're all wonderful. I've not been to a bad one. I'll tell you one thing that I do appreciate is the women, the talented and gifted women that are now producing their own shows and doing, their own shows. And, A Girl's Night Out is one of them. Those three ladies, came down here and, they did what they were supposed to do as women, but they've exploded, and there's other women, Joan Houston, she's my icon, I mean, she does what she wants when she wants to, and she's a strong woman, and a lot of the women acts are doing that. They're roaring. They're women and they're here at roar. And yes, I have wrote a little something that I'm hoping to put on stage this year, and I think I told you it's either going to be absolutely as wonderful as I think it is, because I would pay to see it, and I wrote it, or it's going to be an absolute surprise and disappointment for me. But I don't know. You told me you didn't think it was the latter, so
I can't imagine that it would be, to tell you the truth, Polly.
Thank you.
Polly, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank you for giving the woman's perspective, people coming to Puerto Vallarta. This is the information that you've given us today is golden, and
thank you.
And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to introduce you to my listeners. I truly appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right, Polly. Thank you so much for your story and all that great information. Now, Polly's going to be helping me. She's going to help me get together some smart, some strong, some independent ladies who have come down to paradise and who have made it and who are enjoying it and are looking forward to sharing their experiences with you and I. And soon we will be having them on the podcast. Great tips, great ideas for you and me, and I am looking forward to what's coming up. How about you, Polly? All right, I have pictures of Polly and her stage productions. I've got all that stuff in the show notes, as well as links to her favorite places that we talked about, places that she likes to eat, well, except for the oysters under the bridge. I mean, I wonder, do they have a Facebook page? I'll bet they do. If they do, someone send me a link. All right, well, that should do it for this week. Next week, stay tuned for more on-the-ground reports from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, with travel tips, great restaurant excursion ideas, and more. But until then, remember that this is an interactive show where I depend on your questions and your suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. If you think of something that I should be talking about, well, please reach out to me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending us your message. And remember, if you are considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, well, then you must go to vallartainfo.com, that's JR's website, and reserve your tour through him, right from his website. Remember, this is a value-for-value proposition. His experience and on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you would do anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying thank you. Thanks, JR, for being our guide. It costs no more than if you were going to use someone else, so do it, really. And when you do take one of these tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And don't forget, he's got his maps, his DIY tours, his revitalized happy hour board, and more, and I have links to all of those in the show notes. And once again, if you like this podcast, please take the time and subscribe or follow and give me a good review wherever you happen to be listening, or better yet, share it with a friend. That way we can get the word out to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And remember, I made it easy for you to do just that with each episode I create. But if you haven't been to my website, shame on you. You really need to go have a look there. I have the links to places that we talk about. I have interesting pictures and more right there in the blog posts and in the show notes for each episode of the show. So check them out for sure if you haven't already. All right? Okay. Thanks so much to Polly. Thanks for all your great information, Polly. I can't wait to have you back on the show with more of your buddies. So, hey, everybody, stay tuned. And thanks to all of you for listening all the way through this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for you to slow down, be kind, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
De Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar, samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de amor junto al mar. Solo camino eterno por la playa, me encuentro junto al río cuando todo está en calma. Pronto cae la noche, brillas Puerto Vallarta.